Hello everyone and welcome back to Agent Nagash, which channel dedicated to Age of Sigmar. So, in this video it's going to be the first video looking at the actual army of the Flesh Eater Courts. Now, I have actually just recorded a video as well, talking about the Crypt Ghouls. However, I sort of did that and got to the end of it and it's like, oh, I should have probably done the Allegiance ability video first, so that's why this one will be going up first. Right, okay, so what we're going to look about in this video is we're going to look at the battle traits. We're also going to look at the command traits, the artifacts of power, and this of course is going to be for both your abhorrence and your courtier heroes. And then we're going to look at the spells and the mount traits, and that's also quite a bit, you know, compared to a lot of the other Allegiance ability videos I've done. So like I say, I'm going to spend, you know, quite a bit of time going through them, but I'm not going to over exaggerate too much about them. Right, okay, so starting with the battle traits. So, firstly, we have got the Deathless Courtier. So, roll a dice each time you allocate a wound or mortal wound to a friendly Flesh Eater Court unit wholly within 12 inches of a friendly Flesh Eater Court hero. On a 6, that wound or mortal wound is negated. So, this is something we're used to. You know, Deathless Court is basically, you know, the death save as we came to it. Oh, a ward save you might like, something like that. However, I don't know if this is how it used to be, but I swear it used to be roll a dice each time you allocate a wound or mortal wound to a friendly Flesh Eater Court's model wholly within 12 inches of a hero, which made it a lot easier to do because then you could, you know, the whole unit didn't have to be within it. It was just, you know, those models that you were rolling for the deathless, so you could pick or choose which model was to die to try and get that death save. It has changed. I don't know if it's changed for the better or the worse, but just something worth bearing in mind. The only slight change, but something worth bearing in mind. And then we've got the Grand Court. So after you have chosen the Flesh Eater Court's allegiance for your army, you can choose one of the following Grand Court keywords all Flesh Eater Court's units in your army gain. That keyword, you cannot pick or roll a disillusion. See below for a Grand Court, but all units with the keyword benefit from the extra abilities detailed for the Grand Court. Okay then, so I think this sounds like if you go for a Grand Court you can't pick a disillusion. Please let me know if I'm wrong about that, because I'm first time reading it a little bit and I'm a bit unsure. So yeah, let me know about that, but the Grand Courts are better than disillusions in general, but you might be able to pick both. So I'm not going to speculate too much on that. When I say speculate, I mean look into that one too much, because I could be wrong of what I think is, and I don't want to talk about something for ages if it's pointless. But talking about the Grand Courts, we've got the Morgaunt, we've got the Hallamorn, we've got the Blister Skin, and we've got the Gristlegore, which I've talked about the lore of them already in my first lore video, so go check that out if you would like to. And we're going to do the own separate video for not each of those Grand Courts, of course, because we already talked about that lore, but just sort of talk about the Grand Courts as a whole in the game. We're going to do that in a later video. So, we've got the next thing, so we've got the Courts of Disillusion. So before you select your general's command trait, pick one of the disillusions to the right for the army to have. Alternatively, you can roll a dice to randomly determine the disillusion the army has. The disillusion applies to all friendly Flesh Eater Court units for the duration of the battle, even if the general is slain. If you must select a new general during the battle, do not generate a new disillusion for the army. Okay, so we're going to have a look at the disillusions in a moment, but next going on to the command ability. So this is Feeding Frenzy. So you can use this command ability after a friendly Flesh Eater Court unit has fought in the combat phase for the first time, and it's wholly within 12 inches of a friendly Flesh Eater Court hero, or wholly within 18 inches of a friendly Flesh Eater Court hero that is a general. If you do so, that unit can immediately make a piling move and then attack with all of its melee weapons it is armed with for a second time. You cannot pick the same unit to benefit from this ability more than once. Okay, so this is huge. Mainly just on the fact that if I look at it from my perspective with my Flare army, so I take the Dead Watch Battalion. I always have like a unit of 12 flares in there generally. Yeah, sure, not all of them get to attack, but usually, to be fair, surprisingly, like 9 of them can attack. And what's going to happen is they're going to attack in the hero phase, and then they're going to attack twice in the combat phase because of this, making absolute carnage, especially with how better they've got now. Turn it on its head, so we look at the Crypt Ghouls, and you know, they can chuck out loads of attacks, like in the Crypt Ghoul video, which I will put up shortly. I talk about how they can have potentially 7 attacks each, you know, if not more, but 7 attacks, just look at, you know, as a fairly way you can achieve that. then that means they're making 14 attacks each, essentially, which is absolutely insane. You know, the leader of the unit makes 15 attacks each, you know, which isn't too much extra, but I'm just saying, like, you know, one of those little models makes 15 attacks. Absolutely insane. The other reason why this is massive, apart from just thinking, oh, you can do loads of damage to the enemy, is that as these days, and when I say these days, I mean, it's always been a thing of a bubble wrap unit. So if you're not aware what a bubble wrapping unit is, let's take my example, what I do with my Nagash tournament army. So I've got my tournament army for Nagash, what I took in the last edition. I took it a couple of times, did pretty well. It was very controversial. It wasn't, you know, Grimghast Reapers and all that sort of thing. It was literally Nagash, a Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragon, 4 Morghast Archai, 5 Direwolves, 2 units of 10 Skeletons, a Necromancer, and a Calm Wraith. And you might think, why am I talking about that in a Flesh Eater Court video? However, what I did with that army is I used the 5 Direwolves as a perfect bubble wrap unit for my Morghast. And when I say bubble wrap unit, how I use them as so was I used to just put them in front of the Morghast. So the bases are quite big. They have enough to cover 4 Morghast Archai, lovely and perfectly, and even like sort of curve around them a little bit, so you know, can stop you, can't really stop you getting massively flanked, but can prevent piling a little bit. And they've got 10 wounds, so pretty tough to try and clear out. You can't just chuck a bit of shooting at them and get rid of them. You've got to dedicate your time to them a little bit, and they can keep up with the Morghast. So why is that relevant to this? So the enemy would have Alpha Strike lists and all that sort of thing, and a surprising amount of them would charge my unit of 5 Direwolves and kill them, be like, yes, I killed your unit. And it's like, well, you've done that, but now I'm just going to pile in and kill you with my Morghast Archai. So how this works is that sometimes, even if you think like, oh, I don't really want to charge, the only way I'm going to charge the Morghast Archai is I have to get through the Direwolves. And there's better examples of this wherever you go. So if I charge the Direwolves, I'm going to kill them, and then I'm going to get killed by the Morghast. How do I get around this problem? With Feeding Frenzy, you can. By doing this, it means that, okay, you killed the Direwolves, and now the enemy's like, aha, it's my turn, now I'm going to attack you with the Morghast. It's like, no, you're not. I'm going to use Feeding Frenzy and attack you back straight away. And then the enemy's going to do one or two things. Go, aha, I've already seen this coming, so I'm going to pull something out my sleeve, which I don't know what the fuck that is. Or they're going to go, shit, I didn't see that coming. And let me tell you, for the next few weeks, a month maybe, when people haven't really fought Flesh Eater Courts before, you will be able to prey on their misfortune with not knowing this ability. So Feeding Frenzy, absolutely huge, massive fan of that. And because like all your Flesh Eater Court heroes get it, you know, as a command ability, absolutely fantastic. As a lot of the command abilities, Flesh Eater Courts, just bringing on extra models, are really, really good, but they're not always what you need. So it's lovely to have this one as a generic but very good one. Right, okay. And then we're going to go on to the disillusions that I mentioned previously. So the disillusions, we've got 6 of them. So you can roll a d6 to determine which one you've got, but no one really does that. If you do it, you're awesome, and well done for being different. However, you can choose your disillusion, obviously, you know, if you've modelled your army around it, or you can pick whichever one you think's best for your list, which is the majority of what people do. So we've got 6. The first one is Crusading Army, which is add 1 to the run and charge rolls for friendly Flesh Eater Court unit. So this isn't as good as what it used to be, because I'm going to refer to a couple of things here that have changed. So this isn't as good as it used to be, because it used to be just re-roll your failed run and charge rolls, which is absolutely huge. It was definitely re-roll your charge rolls. I think it was also re-roll your run rolls. And the reason why this was huge is because it wasn't like re-roll failed charge rolls. It was like, oh, like, I've got this unit here, and, you know, I don't know, you've got a unit of ghouls. I want to charge something that's 10 inches away, and it's like, you roll your dice and you charge, and it's like, oh, I've got a 5, or I'm still within 5 inches of this other unit, but I really don't want to get bogged down there. I really want to go for them there, so then I can re-roll my charge dice. You had to re-roll both of them, but it was still amazing ability. This is, I'm not going to lie to you guys, adding 1 to your run and charge rolls is not nearly as good as just being able to re-roll them. However, it is still a good ability, because it means if you're, you know, just outside 3 inches of the enemy, and you roll your charge dice, and you know the nightmare scenario that you get, you know, Snake Eyes get double 1 and you fail with charge. However, with this, it's like, no, well, I'm charging, you know, getting +1 there, so I'm in. And something important to note with the Flesh Eater Courts, if you're very new to them, you haven't really looked through them yet and all those sorts of things, don't worry, because in this series we'll be exploring every single bit of detail as we have with the lore. But if you might be unaware that the Flesh Eater Courts don't have any standards or any, you know, trumpets or horn blowers or drummers or musicians essentially in their army that usually, you know, would give them +1 to charge, they don't have that. So having this is important. So that's the first one, Crusading Army. The second one is Royal Hunt, so you can reroll hit rolls of 1 and wound rolls of 1 for attacks made by friendly flesh-eater courts units that target a monster. Okay, so this is situational. If you're playing against an enemy that has a lot of monsters, choose this disillusion if you're going for the disillusions. Right, if you're playing against an enemy that has not a lot of monsters, do not go for this one. As simple as, if you're going to a tournament, I would say this one is too situational to use, in my honest opinion, especially compared to the last one, Crusading Army. The Royal Hunt is the typical army I think of is Beast Corps Raiders. It's your perfect dream for this, obviously against that army if it's got a lot of monsters in it, as is often the case. If you're using it, to be fair, against another Flesh Eater Court army, could be good, as there's a lot of people posting about lists of their Zombie Dragon and Terrorgeist list. This will be good for it. Most armies in a tournament you fight will have a monster in it, but because just one model you're fighting in that enemy army you'll get this benefit against, it's not really worth it. And yeah, some armies have more than one monsters and all that sort of thing, but you never really know. Like I say, I think it's too situational, because the disillusions now, you pick it before you pick your general's command trait. So it's not like how it used to be in the last general's handbook, where you could pick it at the start of each of your game, where if you went to a tournament that means that you could change it for every game you had for situational purposes. In this you can no longer do that. You can, you have to stick with it. So I would say go for something more generic than something more situational. So that's pretty much as simple as it is. Right, number 3, Feast Day. So once per turn, you can use the Feeding Frenzy command ability without spending a command point. Okay, so that is really, really, really big for the reasons I've already mentioned for Feeding Frenzy. I think they're that is better than Crusading Army. I think that is going to be more useful as the Flesh Eater Courts, without a doubt about it. The main thing about the army, obviously regeneration, but its effectiveness in terms of being able to do damage to the enemy is in the combat phase. So being able to enhance your potential in the combat phase is definitely what you want to target with for the disillusion. So Feeding Frenzy being enhanced by the Feast Day disillusion is the best one so far, I think. Right, the next one is a Matter of Honor. So you can reroll hit rolls for attacks made by friendly Flesh Eater Court units and that target a hero. If the target is a general, you can reroll wound rolls of 1 as well. Okay, so again, this situation, it depends how many heroes your enemy's got. In 2,000 point army, I'd say they've got on average 4 to 6. There's a good chance they will have 6. Sometimes they will have less. It's good. It's like everything I'm going to say. It's good if you know what army you're going to fight against. Again, it sucks having an answer that's like, it depends. But in this case, it does. I would say this is, again, too situational. I'm not a massive fan. It's not bad, but it's not the best. Okay, the next one is Grand Tournament. So you can reroll hit rolls of 1 for attacks made by friendly Flesh Eater Courts heroes other than your general. So this is going to be good if you go for your Zombie Dragon, or Terrorgeist with, Ghoul Kings riding on top of it. Those sort of lists, just because that will make their attacks really good. And this is a battle trait, not command trait. The mount will benefit from this ability. And yeah, so if you want to go, basically big hero monster heavy, and obviously this isn't going to work for your normal Zombie Dragon Terrorgeist, you're going to have the Ghoul King on top to make it hero. It can do wonders, and it means it's situational depending on what army you personally choose, but as that's up to you, it's not really situational, if you see what I mean. If you go for an army that's got lots of Abhorrent Ghoul Kings on Zombie Dragons Terrorgeist, this is just generically going to be a good one, so it's worth definitely taking a look at and considering when you're choosing your disillusion. The next one is Defenders of the Realm. So you can reroll save rolls of 1 for friendly Flesh Eater Court units that have at least half their models wholly within their territory. Okay, so this generically is a good one. Obviously it depends what battle plan you're playing on, how big your territories are, but it always depends, isn't it? So there's no point always coming up with that excuse for not giving you guys a proper answer. I would say this is good. I used to take this one a lot, to be honest with you, before it was like wholly within territory. I mean, it has to be at least half the model, so it's not the whole unit has to be within, but it's quite good for if you're playing a battle plan that's got quite a few objectives in your back territory and you're going to keep like a few units of Tangles there. They're not really under threat from being flanked by the enemy or something like that, but the enemy might chuck a few bits of shooting at them their way, and you don't really want them to suffer too much from the enemy shooting and those attacks. So by getting the rerolls to save rolls of 1 might just make the difference between those units surviving or not in your back territory. However, I feel like it's, like I say, it's not too situational, so it's good in that sense, but I don't feel like it's the best one. Out of honest to you guys, out of all 6 of these, My favourite is Feast Day, just because it enhances the combat effectiveness, and that's just a load of fun. And it means that you can save those command points for that one time. It's like, oh shit, I didn't realise I was going to have to do Inspiring Presence. You know, thank fuck I saved the command point by using this Disillusion. I'm going to quickly do that, etc. But I need to know from you guys if you get the Disillusions and you get to pick a Grand Court, because I don't think you do from the wording, but I don't want to talk about that too much just in case I'm, you know, wrong on that. So I'd like to hear from you guys, and I feel like I know the right answer, but I want to sort of hear it from you guys as well, just to make sure. Okay, and then the last bit it says in the battle trait is a muster ability. So several Flesh Eater Court units have the muster abilities, such as Muster Royal Guard on page 42, that allow you to return slain models to the unit. If you use a muster ability, set up the returning models one at a time within 1 inch of a model from the unit they are returning to. This can be a model returned earlier that phase. The model can only be set up within 3 inches of an enemy unit if any models from their units are already within 3 inches of their enemy units. So basically what this is saying is you can, you know, make a string line with your, you know, let's take Ghouls for example. You can like set one up and then set one up within range of the one you've just set up, so you can stretch them out, but you can't tie up enemy units via this way, which some people did previously, because it said you didn't really say anything about it. So something to bear in mind, guys, you can't tie enemy units unfairly into combat, essentially. Okay, and then with that we are going to go on to the command traits. So firstly we're going to look at royalty. So this is for abhorrent heroes only, and then number 1 we have got Bringer of Death. You can reroll wound rolls for attacks made by this general. Not really a fan of that, just because what for your Ghoul Kings and your Archregent was aren't, you know, terrible combatants, but that's not what they're for, and this won't affect their, you know, zombie dragons or terrorgeists. So yeah, not a fan of that. Next one, so Frenzied Flesh Eater. So you can reroll hit rolls and wound rolls for attacks made by this general if there is an enemy model that has suffered any wounds within 3 inches of this general. This is better than the last one, enhancing their attack and combat effectiveness, but like I say, I don't focus them on that, so not a fan of that either. Right, the next one, so Savage Beyond Reason. If an unmodified hit roll for an attack made with a melee weapon by this general is a 6, that attack inflicts 2 hits on the target instead of 1. Make a wound roll and save roll for each of those hits. So again, it's not bad to enhance the combat effectiveness of that hero, but I don't think it's particularly good for your abhorrence. Right, going on to the next one. I'm sorry I'm going quite quickly here, guys, but I'm not interested. You know, your Ghoul Kings and your Archregents are not there to be combat monsters. You know, they're not bad, but they are not there. Because bear in mind, this will not affect your mounts, will it? You know, because it's a command trait. So, for your, what? If you put this on a, Abhorrent Ghoul King on a Terrorgeist, for an example, what, he makes 5 attacks, freeze and freeze, -1 rend and 1 damage. Yeah, not bad, but nothing to, you know, write home about, really. So, going on to number 4, so we've got Majestic Horror. So if this general is chosen as the model that uses a command ability that summons Flesh Eater Court models to the battlefield, they can use it without a command point having to be spent. Okay, this is better. This is a bit negated because of the throne you're going to have in your, you know, army as the scenery piece of Flesh Eater Court. You're going to naturally get that for free. So it's a little bit negated by that, but I personally think this is better than the last ones. So going in to number 5, we've got Dark Witchery. So add 1 to casting, dispelling, and unbinding rolls for this general. I would normally say it's all right, but it's not amazing sort of command trait. However, I think this command trait is really, really big for the Flesh Eater Courts, because Flesh Eater Courts, there's loads of people coming up on Facebook and everything else, and probably myself included. You know, I'm guilty of it as well, of course, because I think I've already mentioned it in like the videos and stuff, like saying how good they can be, they're amazing, like absolutely being too enthusiastic about it, because, you know, like looking at, I've mentioned it in the Crypt Ghoul video, and I talk about how Crypt Ghouls can have 7 attacks, you know, each if they get it off from the spells from the Archregent and the Abhorrent Ghoul King, and you know, that's like amazing. And then we're feeding, you know, Frenzy, then it's basically doubled, it's like 40 attacks. However, let's take a step back. Okay, so your Crypt Ghouls make 2 attacks standard. If there's 20 or more in the unit, they make 3 attacks. Very nice. Where are you getting this extra 4 attacks from? Well, the Archregent can give you an extra D3 through his spell, and the Ghoul King can give you an extra 1 through his spell. Right, that's all lovely in theory, and like when I say the Archer Region can give you free, I mean it's a D free extra attack, so you know, don't always guarantee on getting the free there. Now, a lot of the synergies, including that of the Flesh-Eater Courts, come through spells. The Flesh-Eater Courts are not bad at casting magic, but they are most certainly not the best. And if you go against a Legion of Nagash army that includes Nagash or Arcan or a Zeech army, that's heavy casting, and if it's a Zeech army, it's going to be heavy casting, you're a little bit in trouble. You know, let's be honest here. We rely so much on magic for our synergy, but we don't really have many ways to buff the magic by getting pluses to casting. It's just so easy for the enemy, if they're a magic dealing army, to just shut you down. It's like, it becomes the point where it's like, oh, well, I really plan to give my guys loads of extra attacks here, but I can't do that now because I've just got sort of substandard wizards. And you know, the Arch Regent's good, he can cast 2 spells and stuff, which is nice. But there's something to bear in mind. We feel like when we're creating these lists, oh, we're relying on all these spells going off, but are you really? Because you can't guarantee it, and you can never guarantee your spells going off, but by taking a command trait like Dark Wizardry, it's certainly going to enhance it by getting that add 1 to cast. It might not sound like a lot, but overall, it does definitely help out. And like I say, when I always look through command traits and artifacts, unless I'm just trying to build a Death Star or something, I always look for ones that benefit your whole army, which this one might not at first seem like it does. I might just think, oh, you're just buffing the casting of this guy, you know, for his own self purposes. No, that's actually going to really help out your own, you know, unit for sure. Right, okay, and then on to the next one, we've got Completely Disillusioned. So once per battle, if the general has not been slain, you can pick a new disillusion in your hero phase to replace the original disillusion you chose for your army. This is good if you don't know what army you're going to fight against. This is good, obviously, situationally, if things like changes, like I sort of killed out all the enemy units now. It's literally, I'm just relying on killing the heroes. Well, then change it to the one that gives you, you know, those rerolls, that ones to hit for the enemy heroes. This is also good for a tournament because it means you can sort of change it each game to really suit what army you're going to fight. So, yes, I do like that one too. I would say, personally, my favourite one is... You've got Dark Wizardry, I think, is probably my favourite one. Complete Disillusion is good, but I want to hear like if you can take Disillusions and the Grand Courts. If you can't take both of them, then Dark Wizardry. If you can take both of them, Complete Disillusion for tournament purposes. Right, okay, and then we're going to go on to the Noble Knights of your courts. So this, of course, is the Nobility command traits, and this is for the Courtier heroes only. And this is absolutely lovely for me because I've always taken Courtiers as my heroes because I like taking Crypt Flares, Cryptoria for battle line. So it's absolutely awesome that they've got their own command traits now. And I know that you don't have to take like a Crypt Haunter Courtier now to take Crypt Flares as your battle line, or a Crypt Infernal Courtier to take Crypt Flares as your battle line. However, I still probably am going to take Courtier as my general just because they're cool, they're a bit bigger, they're a bit stronger. And I say that, I mean, like the Arch Regents are pretty good for what he is, to be fair. But, you know, I've sort of like converted my own sort of courtiers and all that sort of thing, so I'll be using them. Anyway, and the idea of having a Vargolf as a general is absolutely awesome. Having his own command trait as a noble knight he is, on top of his glorious Pegasus. Right, okay, now going into their command traits. So, the first one is a Bringer of Death, so you can reroll wound rolls for attacks made by this general. Yeah, not bad. You know, you look at your Vargolf as an example. If a spell goes off near him, you know, when I say near him, relatively near him, it doesn't even have to be too close. I believe it's within 18 inches, but we'll look obviously properly when we go into the rules for that model. So, if a Flesh-Eater Court wizard casts a spell near him, he gets to reroll all failed hit rolls. Now, that is really good. And it's a little bit like when you play into your opponent, it's like, what? You get that for just casting a spell. And it's like, yeah, get over it. And now with this, re-rolling those wound rolls for a Vargolf, yeah, it's not, you know, he's not going to take on the world with it, but it's just an awesome feeling. I mean, like, I've had a Vargolf, and I'm sure I've told you guys this probably multiple times, but I'll tell you again because I want to. I had a Vargolf in a tournament. It got charged by a Carnosaur. The Vargolf turned around and ripped the Carnosaur's head off. It got carried away. It charged another Carnosaur, and I can't remember if it killed it or very nearly killed it. And that was one Vargolf. Yes, I was extremely lucky, but this increasing its chance of being able to do that again is just so fun. I really want to do it. I don't know if it's the best one, but, you know, it certainly would give you a nice, fun unit to attack in the combat phase. Right, okay, on to the next one. We've got Frenzied Flesh Eaters. So, you can reroll hit rolls and wound rolls for attacks made by this general if there is an enemy model that has suffered any wounds within 3 inches of this general. Okay, so obviously we're starting to see that these command traits, the first three anyway by the looks of things, are the same as the ones for the abhorrent. Now, the reason why, to be fair, the abhorrents I was just like, no, don't like that, don't like that, don't like that. Just skip through it and just said why I didn't like it. Just don't think they suited them. However, for the courtiers, they are more combat orientated, especially something like a Vargolf. So being able to, reroll, hit rolls and wound rolls for attacks made by its, melee weapons is a lot bigger. And to be fair, having a unit, or model that obviously that suffered wounds within 3 inches of you isn't too hard to achieve, especially like mid-game, to be fair. And yeah, that's pretty cool. Even if like you do a little bit of shooting to make sure that model has definitely taken some wounds before your guy charges in, it's good. I mean, obviously for a Vargolf, it's probably going to be rerolling those hit rolls anyway, but it's still quite good. So going on to the next one, we've got Savage Beyond Reason. So if the modified hit roll for an attack made with a melee weapon by this general is a 6, that attack inflicts 2 hits on the target instead of 1. Make a wound roll and save roll for each hit. Okay, so of course this is the one we looked at for the abhorrents, but again, for the reasons I've stated, this is good for your courtiers as they are more combat orientated. Obviously not the little ghoul guy you don't really want. You might want to get him in combat, and there's actually a reason to, as we'll see later. However, yeah, it's alright, the ability's quite good, but I prefer the other ones personally. Right, okay, and then going on to number 4, we've got Hulking Brute. So add one to the general's wounds characteristic. This is going to be important for your courtiers because the enemy has a nasty, nasty habit of trying to target them with shooting or, God forbid, mortal wounds because of the Lookout Serve rule. So, this can be the difference between your general just surviving that one more round than he needs to be able to bring back your models. This happened multiple times with me because I've had so much experience with Fleshly Courts where it's like, oh, my Vargolf's got one wound left, just has to survive to be able to bring back the models for my flares. And then it's like, nope, just one extra wound done to him because he's got a 5-up save and he's gone. So, yeah. It certainly would help. I don't know if it's, the best one, but it would help. Right, the next one is Cruel Taskmaster. So if this general uses a master ability, you can re-roll the dice for the general that determines if a slain model are returned to units. You must re-roll all the dice. I really like this one. I actually loved it until I got to the end bit, because it's like, and then you have to re-roll all the dice, and it's like, ooh, that's a bit. Ooh, you're playing with a little bit of fire there, aren't you? Let's say you try and bring back your, crit flares, as as the unit I'm always going to talk about because that is my favourite unit. And let's say you roll, let's say, obviously you roll, your 6 dice, that's no question about that. You roll your 6 dice for that courtier, and you get 2. Let's say you get a 5 and a 6, so you're bringing back 2 flares. Now, that's good. That is, I believe, the average, on those 6 dice, on a 5 and 6, That's the average. However, you're like, I'd quite like to bring back more than that. So you can take the risk and roll it, you can re-roll it and you can get fuck all, you can re-roll it and you might bring back 4 or something amazing. However, if you're trying to bring back crit ghouls and you roll a shockingly amount of ones, well, I've got not much to lose here, so just re-roll those again. And you might roll to bring back flares or horrors, and you might just roll loads of, you might roll no 5s and 6s, so you just, great, I can re-roll it. Because I can tell you again from experiences, especially in tournaments where I've had units of like 9 or 12 flares, so I'd have them. They would take so much of a pounding from the enemy from an alpha charge, and I go, haha, well, they're just all going to come back. And sometimes they did, and the enemy's face was a very, very pleasant sight to see. But sometimes, in my own arrogance, like, they're all coming back, and I roll like literally 12 dice because I have 2 courtiers nearby, a Vargolf and an Infernal Courtier. Roll 12 dice, and I wouldn't get any 5s and 6s, and I'd just be there in horror going, that has changed the fate of the game for me. And pretty much going to be really, really hard to try and turn it around off that, if not impossible. And if back then I could have this ability to be able to go, no, well, I can't re-roll, can't re-roll all 12 of those dice because the command ability only fixes one of your courtiers, but I re-roll, 6 of those dice. And then, I've brought back 3 more models now. And it's like, well, fantastic. That's literally changed everything. So, yes, I am definitely a fan of that one for sure. Right, okay, and then on to the next one, we have got Dark Acolyte. So, this general gains the wizard keyword and can cast and unbind spells in the same manner as an Abhorrent Ghoul King from the Abhorrent Ghoul King War Scroll. So I imagine that means he gets the Dark Hunger ability as well. So, spell to get yourself an extra attack from the Ghoul King's, his own unique spell basically. And Yeah, turning someone into a wizard, that's good. Gets your Mystic Shield, your Arcane Bolt, if you haven't got that somewhere else in the army. But as we've said, how much synergy the army relies on for your magic, you're going to have wizards in your army. So if you've only got one other wizard, this might be quite a good one. But if you've got a couple wizards already, I'd say go for the Cool Taskmaster for sure. So that was the last command trait for the nobility, being your courtiers, and in total the last command trait for your army as a whole. So we're now going to look at the artifacts of power. So to start with, we are going to look at the Royal Treasury, of course being for your abhorrent heroes, as you know, only them. And the first one we're going to look at is Signet of the First Court. So if the unmodified wound roll for an attack made by the bearer with a melee weapon is a 6, add 1 to the damage inflicted by that attack. Okay, so then that makes these guys, like I said, they're not, like combat orientated to a huge certain degree. However, this, if you get a few 6s here, they can definitely be pretty good, especially how many attacks even a Ghoul King chuck out on Arch Region. However, don't focus too much on the attacks of these guys even still, because you might not get any 6s, and then obviously this is pointless, and of course that situation again. But yeah, I wouldn't focus too much on this. So the next one is Splinter Vein Brooch. So subtract 1 from casting rolls for enemy wizards while they are within 18 inches of the bearer. Okay, so this is always good, because how much magic there is in Age of Sigmar now, and with endless spells. Also, you're fighting against a Fleshy Court army, like we've already said, that relies so much on spells. This is really going to help you shut down their magic and shut down their synergy. Also, the other good thing about this is if you fight against those really powerful magic armies, it might just mean that you stand a chance trying to unbind Zeech and a Legion of Nagash wizards. However, I would personally prefer it to be subtract 1 from enemy unbinding rolls against you. I know that's quite a bit different and sounds a bit strange, but it would help your chance of getting spells off, but that's not the case, so there's no point in talking about that. Right, number 3, Blood River Chalice. So once per game at the start of your hero phase, the bearer can use this artifact. If they do so, heal D6 wounds allocated to the bearer. Okay, this is my favourite one so far. It's reliable, it's good, it's what we're used to. We've had this ability ever since Fleshy Court's got their own Legions abilities, and I've used it in most of my games in all honesty, because it's just a really good, reliable way to get back wounds, especially if you put it on like something like a Abhorrent Ghoul King on Zombie Dragon, who's going to heal back D3 in the hero phase anyway. Now he's going to heal in one of the hero phases. He's going to heal D6 and D3 on top, which is huge potential to heal back 9 wounds, which is massive. Right, the next one is the Grim Garland. So subtract 2 from bravery characteristics of enemy units while they are within 6 inches of the bearer. Okay, so this has always been my first to go-to artifact, just because, like I say, I run a Flare army. I give this to a Abhorrent Ghoul King on Terrorghast, or a Courtier who's running along with the Flares. Makes their shooting attack so much better, as their shooting attack is amazing now in the book. This is going to enhance even more. Some people said it's overpowered. I don't think it's overpowered at all, because I think the shooting attack, it's not even really a shooting attack. So for it to be really good against most armies, you have to be in combat with the enemy anyway. So you can't really use it as like a range threat to your enemy. It's just basically it's a combat attack you're going to be doing with a missile weapon, to be honest. Yeah, you can use it for further range, and yes, sure, if you're playing against the Skaven army, which is going to be more common these days, it's going to impact them a lot of, even the Gloom Spikes, of course, as they're popular as well. So it has got its uses, that attack, but it's not overpowered. But anyway, the Grim Garland is definitely going to enhance your damage output for sure. You did it before when the bloody shooting attack with the Flares was absolutely useless most of the time, so it's going to do it even more so now. So that's definitely one I'd recommend. And then the next one is the Dermal Robe. So add 1 to casting and dispelling and unbinding rolls for the bearer. Okay, so this is good. This is definitely better than the Splinter Brooch. Just subtract 1 for the casting for the enemy, as this gives you all 3 basically. So this is good, especially if you want to increase your casting potential for your army, because you can also take if you've got an Arch Regent that you really want to get spells off, give them the Dark Witchery command trait that gives them +1 to casting, and then also give him this one, the Dermal Robe, and then he gets another +1 to casting, so he's getting +2 to casting, which makes him really, really good. Turns them into like an Arcane standard, I believe, of the whole casting sort of thing. And as I've already mentioned to you guys countless of times already in this video, how much the army relies on its synergy through spells. You really want to almost guarantee as much as you can those spells go off, and you can do so with this. So yes, it is definitely a good artifact for something that at first might not seem that amazing. Right, and then on to the last one, we've got Heart of the Gargant, which is basically a giant if you are a bit new to it and you don't understand. Okay, and then we got a once per battle, at the start of the combat phase, the bearer can use this artifact. If they do so, you can reroll failed wound rolls for the bearer and their mount in that phase. Okay, so firstly I was going to say, oh, this isn't really good, it's not going to apply to the mount. However, it does apply to the mount, so that changes things considerably. So if you're going for a heavy mounted army, this one's quite good. However, I'll talk about this one for a bit more. This is a very good artifact if you want to make your guy a combat orientated hero rather than a more supportive hero. So, looking at all of the artifacts, my favourite one, it's going to have to be the Grim Garland, because like I said, it's always been my number one. I always run flares, and that's why it's my favourite. Number 2, it's going to be the Blood River Chalice to heal those D6 wounds, as that can be very, very useful, especially for if you've got a Ghoul King on a big beastie. And number 3 is going to be the Dermal Robe. And to be honest, the Dermal Robe should be higher on that list, just because how much you really need to get your spells off in the Flesh Eater Courts. But for me, I'm going to go with what I know, and those are the order. Right, okay, and then we're going to move on to the Noble Heirloom. So this is for courtier heroes only. So the first one is the Neon Bone. So pick one of the bearer's melee weapons, increase the range characteristic of that weapon to 3 inches. This can be good because you can reach over enemy bubble wrap units and target the squishy things on the other side. However, I'm a bit like, boring, move on. So the next one is a Mendel of Madness. So once per battle round, the bearer can use a command ability on their war scroll without a command point being spent, and they are treated as if they were the general when they do so. Right, so the courtiers don't have a command ability on their war scroll as far as I'm aware. If I'm missing something really, really obvious, like I say, if I'm missing something really, really obvious, please let me know in the comments, because I'm sure they don't have a command ability on their war scrolls, because that's not what they do. However, this may apply for things like Inspiring Presence, the one that lets you have an automatic 6 as you run, and you want to reroll those charge rolls. That might be what this is aimed for. And if that's the case, yeah, because sometimes you need to do those command abilities when you least expect it, and you go, oh crap, I didn't rely. You know, I expected to get that charge. No, I don't. So just doing this, getting that charge, yes, I needed that. Cool. And yes, once per battle, but I needed that and got that for free because I didn't have the spare command point. However, I think there are still better ones to come. So the next one is Flay Pendant. So you can reroll charge rolls for friendly Flesh Eater Court units wholly within 12 inches of the bearer. Okay, so this is good, but it's wholly within 12 inches of the bearer, so quite a small range. You have to sort of target what unit you want to benefit from this, and in that case you might be able to get 2 within range, but you're going to have to really measure, you know, to an anal standard degree really. So it's not as good as it used to be. The Flay Pendant used to allow you to get +3 to your charging, and yep, you basically had to be within, I can't remember now, I think it was within 15 inches of the guy with the artifact, and it gave you +3 to your charging, but you could also charge an enemy unit that's 15 inches away, and that's better than this in my honest opinion. Right, number 4 is the Carrying Wand. So in your hero phase, the bearer can attempt to cast the arcane bulk spell as if they were a wizard. If the bearer is already a wizard, add 1 to the casting roll when they attempt to cast the arcane bolt instead. Okay, so firstly, it depends. I can't remember off the top of my head the casting for an arcane bolt. I know it only does 1 mortal wound now. However, if you get it on a 10, it does D3 mortal wounds. Does it go off on a 10, or does it go off on a 10 or more essentially on the casting roll? I know that you can look it up quite easily, but the reason I'm not going to research it too much is just because I don't think it's very good just for an arcane bolt. There's better spells to be doing for sure. So yeah, not really a fan of that. And then the next one is the Flesh Form Raiment. So the subtract 1 from brave characteristics of enemy units while they are within 3 inches of the bearer. I really like this for my flares, especially if you tie this with the Grim Garland from the Royal Treasury for your Abhorrent Heroes artifact. You can make the enemy -3 bravery, which is absolutely fantastic for a Terrorgeist and your flare unit. So yep, big fan of that. And then the next one is the Bullius A decanter. So once per battle at the start of the combat phase, the bearer can use this artifact. If they do so, add 2 to the attacks characteristics of the bearer's minions weapons in that phase. Okay, so this is going to be awesome for a Vargoth. All right for the other things, but it's good. It's cool, but I prefer the other ones because they benefit your army more. My favourite one is, if I think about it, I'm going to go for the subtract 1 from the bravery characteristics on the enemy units while they are within 3 inches of the bearer, because that's going to be best for me. Right, okay, and then those are all the artifacts for the Flesh Eater Quartz. So the next thing we're going to look at is the spell laws. And perfectly fittingly, the law for the Flesh Eaters is the Law of Madness. Now they have 6 spells to choose from. So the first one is a Bone Storm. So Bone Storm has a casting value of 5. If successfully cast, roll a dice for each enemy unit within 12 inches of the caster. On a 2+, the enemy unit suffers 1 more wound. Yeah, that's good because that's a hold within 12 inches, so quite a big range there. Tagging for quite a few enemy units, and on a 2-up, it's not even a 4-up, it's 2-up, so you're going to get a lot of them through. Casting value 5, so that's nice. However, I prefer spells for Flesh Eater Quartz that's going to support them. The army-wise, for supportive measures rather than offensive measures. Right, okay, and then going on to the next one is Spectral Host. So Spectral Host has a casting value of 6. If successfully cast, pick one friendly unit wholly within 12 inches of the caster that is invisible to them. That unit can fly until the next hero phase. If that unit can already fly until your next hero phase, it can run and still charge in the same turn. If the casting roll was 10 or more, you can pick up to 3 friendly Flesh Eater Court units to be affected by this spell. And when I say friendly Flesh Eater Court units, actually, to be fair, it just says friendly units. Just naturally said that. So, casting value of 10 or more. So firstly, you can modify it by taking those command traits and artifacts for your opponents mainly. And yes, this is really good. Yeah, you have to be wholly within 12 inches of that friendly unit, so you have to set it up ready to do this spell. So you're going to need to move everything in place in order to do it to next turn, or you're going to have to set up in the hero phase to be able to do it. However, I haven't got a problem with this because I can easily do this. Just target my big unit of flares to make sure they can run and charge is huge for them, which is massive. Like I say, if you get it on 10 or more, or potentially less than that, because the means of pluses to casting, you can really start to make the your units really fast, and that can make just making your cryptors be able to fly is absolutely huge, definitely for sure. Right, so definitely a fan of that. And yeah, you can make it, like I say, pick 3 friendly units if you get it on a 10 or more, which I say you can make easier for yourself to do. However, I'm not going to rely on that too much because that's a bit too, even if you're getting +2 to cast, you're trying to get it on an 8, and there's probably other ways to get plus to the cast. However, for me personally, I'm just going to look at it as face value for getting that 1 unit to be able to run it. In my case, it will be for the flares. Obviously, if you don't put it on the flares and put it on something that can't fly, then that will mean that unit, let's say your crypt ghouls can now charge over the enemy bubble wrap units, which we've already explained, and get to where the juicy stuff is, or your cryptors can do that, etc. So that is definitely a nice spell there. Right, okay, the next one is Monstrous Vigor. So Monstrous Vigor has casting value of 5. If successfully cast, pick 1 friendly Flesh Eater Quartz monster within 24 inches of the caster. That is visible to them. Until your next hero phase, when you look up the value on that monster's damage table, that monster is treated as if it has suffered 0 wounds. Okay, so firstly, if you're taking a monster heavy army, which you can easily do now, Flesh Eater Quartz, make sure someone takes this spell for sure. It's a little bit of common sense obviously implied here. If you've got just 1 monster in your army, but you've got a few wizards, yeah, make that, whoever's riding the monster have this spell in case they need, they get a bit stuck in combat and taking a lot of damage. You think, I really need to win this fight, so I'm just going to boom, spell on myself. Right, let's get back into the fight. However, if you haven't got many casters in your army, but you have got a Terrorgeist, something, I wouldn't go for this. It's only good if you've got either a lot of magic going in your army already, or you've got a lot of monsters. That's my own personal opinion. Right, okay, going on to number 4, we've got Miserable Shroud, I think that's how it's pronounced. It says it has a casting value of 5. Successfully cast, pick 1 enemy unit which is within 18 inches of the caster. That is visible to them, and roll 3 dice. For each 5+, that unit suffers 1 mortal wound. In addition, if you rolled a triple, subtract 1 from the hit roll and rune rolls for that unit until your next hero phase. If you rolled a double, subtract 1 from the hit roll, only for that unit until your next hero phase. Okay, that's good, because it's a way to do more wounds to the enemy, but also it's a way to debuff the enemy, and we love debuffing the enemy. I know I've talked about before how it's not fun for your enemy, but at the same time, I would of course prefer spells that support yourself, but because there's some horrendously nasty stuff the enemy can chuck at you, and this doesn't debuff them heavily amount, it can definitely be, you know, a nice way to go. You're powerful, but maybe a bit too powerful. Just take a break for a little while to that, you know, death star of an enemy unit. But it's, for me, I prefer more supportive ones. Right, okay, going on to the next one, we've got Deranged Transformation. So Deranged Transformation has a casting value of 6. If successfully cast, pick one friendly unit with a wound characteristic of up to 6. That is wholly within 24 inches of the caster and is visible to them. Add that unit's wound characteristics to its move characteristics until your next hero phase. For example, if the unit had a wound characteristic of 6, you would add 6 inches to the move characteristic. If the casting roll was 10 or more, you can pick up to 3 friendly units to be affected by this spell instead. Okay, so this is really quite good if you want to get your courtiers and stuff moving, essentially, or even just making your, you know, crit flares. I know I always go back to crit flares, but that's because they have crit flares, and being able to make them move 16 basic and then 18 if you take one of the grand courts is really, really big, and then being able to run and charge is massive, and it's definitely something I'll be doing for sure with those connections there. And also the nice thing here, it also shows why it's important to increase your casting for your fleshly course, because I would say how much your synergy relies on it, but actually how many. There's quite a few spells, well there's a couple, isn't there, so far, that say if you get 10 or more, you're going to put it on 3 units instead of 1. So yes, I'm definitely a fan of this spell for sure. Right, the next one is number 6, and that is Blood Feast. So Blood Feast is a casting value of 7. If successfully cast, pick one enemy unit within 12 inches of the caster that is visible to them, and a friendly Flesh Eater Court unit within 6 inches of that enemy unit. The enemy unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. If the casting roll was 10 or more, the enemy unit suffers D6 mortal wounds instead of D3. Okay, so firstly, nice way to do damage being mortal wounds to your enemy, and there's another reason why you want to get plus to your casting, because this again has a special way, you know, a enhanced basically spell version of it. If you get a 10 or more, you're doing D6 mortal wounds instead of D3 mortal wounds. Right, okay, and then it says, for each mortal wound that was inflicted on the enemy unit, you can heal 1 wound allocated to the friendly unit. If the friendly unit has a wound characteristic of 1, for each mortal wound that was inflicted on the enemy unit, you can return 1 slain model to the friendly unit instead. Okay, so what I will say about this, it's okay for things like making your crit flares heal like some wounds, or your, you know, your heroes or your monsters or whatever, but this is really sort of targeted for your ghouls to really bring them back, because like I say, if you've got a unit of crit flares but they've only taken like 1 wound, it's not going to mean a huge difference here if you do a lot more wounds to the enemy. However, your crit ghouls, it's a really quite good spell to help regenerate them, as crit ghouls definitely, they are good in combat, and you know, you can bring so many of them back. However, they will melt like butter with a 6+ save, so you definitely want to enhance the chance of them bringing back. So this spell is good for that. So looking over all the spells, my favourite for sure is the Deranged Transformation and the Spectral Host, just because it increases movement, and I've said so many times on this channel how much movement makes a difference in your games. It can honestly be the difference between you winning and losing. It doesn't matter if the enemy turn up with such a horrendously vile list in, like, I don't know, combat specialties or shooting specialties compared to yours. When it gets to the end of the game, it all comes down to movement and being able to grab as many objectives at the end of the game when there's not so many models on the board, and being able to just have 1 more victory point over your enemy at the end of the game can make the difference between a major loss and a major victory. And if you're at a tournament, that's all what people will remember. The amount of games I've had at tournaments where, you know, that case has happened, and the amount of games where, you know, I have lost or something like that, but I've pretty much tabled the enemy, or I have tabled them, but I've still lost 3 points. People don't, you know, read or know about the fact that you table the enemy. All they see is, oh, you got a major loss there. Oh, okay, you mustn't have done very good, but actually you did do good. However, the points say otherwise. Right, okay, so those are my 2 favourite ones for sure. And those are the spell laws for the Flesh Eater Courts. When I say spell laws with an S, there is only one law, and that's the Law of Madness, but they're still good spells and supportive for the army, which for me is the main thing. Of course, there are the Ender spells as well, which I have already talked about in the video when I did a preview for them, so you can go check that out for sure. I probably won't be doing a video specifically on them because I've already done one. It doesn't make a difference that I've got the Battle Tome now at all. I've read through the War Scrolls already. Right, okay then, so we are finally getting on to the last bit of the video, which is the mount traits. So this is a lovely addition for Flesh Eater Court armies, and it's really, really nice to see that more people, more armies are getting them, and really means that you can start personalising your monsters, opposed to just like mainly the Stormcast doing it and really hating them. Right, so it's mount traits. So if a Flesh Eater Court army includes any heroes mounted on a Royal Terrorgeist or a Royal Zombie Dragon, which I'm pretty sure is meant to say Royal Hippogriff or Royal Griffin, but obviously typo there, one of the heroes can have a mount trait. So declare which hero has the mount trait. You can then choose or roll for a mount trait from the appropriate table. You can choose one extra hero to have a mount trait for each War Scroll battalion in your army. A hero cannot have more than one mount trait. Okay, it's the first time I've ever used mount traits, so good, important thing to read through there. So yes, that's pretty cool. So you get an extra one for every battalion you have in your army, which in the Flesh Eater Court you can do quite easily. I definitely will be with my Deb, watch battalion. So that's all good to get. And when it says, that you've got, choose, what choice you want to go for the corresponding creature, of course we've got the Terrorgeist traits and we've got the Zombie Dragon traits. So firstly, we are going to look at the Terrorgeist traits. So there are 6 of them. The first one is deathly fast. So this model can run and shoot in the same turn. Okay, pretty useful, as you're going to always want to shoot with your Terrorgeist. And being able to run and doing it means that your guy moves at least 15 inches. So yeah, pretty nice. The next one is Razor Clawed. So improve the rend characteristic of this amounts of melee weapons by 1. Okay, that's quite nice. It's also nice that that's not just for the claws, it's also, for the maw and stuff. So yeah, that can make a big difference. Sure, but again, it does depend on what armies you're fighting. I know it's easy to say, it depends, but if you're going against Stormcast, fantastic. If you're going against anything that generally has a 4-up save army-wide, fantastic. If you go against Nighthaunt, what's the point? But you can't know that, can you? But if you go into a tournament, I'd say it's a bit too I don't know. I'd say generally this one is quite good. It's one to look out for. Okay. And then number 3, we've got Horribly Infested. So this model, Infested ability, inflicts 3 mortal wounds instead of D3. Yeah, that can be good, especially if you want to just send this guy in and you think he's going to die and you just go pop. However, I'd rather have something that's good on more than just one occasion. Right, so the next one is Horribly Resilient. So this model's Royal Blood ability heals up to 3 wounds instead of up to D3. Okay, so this is very good indeed, as we've already talked about how it's really good, and there are ways to be able to heal your, appoint Ghoul Kings on your Zombie Dragons, Terrorgeist wounds up anyway, for them to regenerate. There's quite a few ways to do it, especially now, and then this just healing a flat 3 instead of D3 is really, really quite big. So yes, that is a good one there. And then the next one is Gruesome Bite. So you can reroll failed hit rolls for attacks made with amounts found more. This is my personal favourite so far, just because we all know that more is pretty horrific, in the sense that more on a 6, and most importantly, an unmodified hit roll of a 6, so the enemy cannot minus you to hit and get rid of it. If you roll that 6, it does 6 damage to the enemy, just flat 6 wounds to the enemy, and there is nothing the enemy can really do much about it. Yeah, they might have like death save basically against it, but it's not too much they can do against it. And annoyingly though, I'm sure you guys have been in the same position I've been, where you go, alright, I've got 3 attacks with the Terrorgeist, more, or the Zombie Dragon more doesn't really matter, because the Zombie Dragon, okay, so both these attacks, so they, the Terrorgeist has a chance to do more wounds, the Zombie Dragon doesn't. However, both of those attacks will do d6 damage, so they are, your real money maker here. And those are the ones that, like, oh, I'm so excited, you've got 3 attacks, so quite a few attacks, you should get, most of them through, if you're lucky. But the amount of times you roll your 3 dice and you get no 4s, and you get 1 4, and you go, yes, it's a wound, you need a 3, and then you get a 2. And it's so disappointing and heartbreaking in that moment of time. So being able to reroll those failed hit rolls is massive, especially for the Terrorgeist. So yes, that's definitely something I'm going to look into. Right, okay, and then the next one and the last one, number 6, is a Devastating Scream. So add 1 to each of the Death Streak values on this model's table. Okay, that's pretty good because, as we've already looked, there's a way to make the enemy -3 to their bravery if you take those 2 artifacts we looked at. One for the Abhorrence and then one for the Courtier. And then with this, it's really when the Terrorgeist is attacking, it's making them extra -1 bravery just for his purpose of attacks. You can look at it that way. So in that case, the enemy's -4 bravery, and then you add in, 6 to your dice roll for the Terrorgeist attack. If you don't really know what I'm talking about there, you can look up the War Scroll, or you can wait until we do the video on it. So yeah, that obviously makes the shooting attack better. Out of all of them, the ones I would say are my favourites, there's not really any that are bad, to be fair, because even like the one that increases your movement, I've already talked about how amazing movement is, so yep, that's good. Even Ren 1 is good. I mean, like I could say, it's situational depending on if you fight a Night or not, but that's such a specific thing to point out that it's not really fair to call it that. Horribly Infested, being able to heal flat 3 wounds is fantastic, because this guy, despite if you want to make your Abhorrent Ghoul King on a Terrorgeist basically a block of muscle that's just going to smash through things, despite if you want that or not, if you just want him to support your army, he is going to be supporting your army regardless. So it's important to keep him alive, especially how the enemy will look across your army and go, well, that thing needs to die pretty quickly. It's important to keep him alive, and he just a flat 3 wounds in each of your hero phases is massive, especially how there's a chance to heal the extra d6 wounds if you go for that artifact, the the Blood Chalice. So that is very good. And re-rolling the failed hit rolls for the Fang Maul probably my favourite. So yeah, he did a flat 3 wounds, and the re-rolls to hit on the Fang Maul are probably my favourite out of them, to be fair. Okay, and then we are going to move on to the Zombie Dragon trait. So of course this is heroes mounted on a Royal Zombie Dragon only. Okay, so we've got 6 again. So the first one's definitely fast. So basically the first 2 are the same. Okay. There's the first 2, and there's a few that are the same as the Terrorgeist, but we're going to go through them anyway. So, first one, definitely fast. So the model can run and shoot in the same turn, which is good because, yeah, the Zombie Dragon doesn't scream at the enemy, but its shoot attack is really, really good. The next one is Raise Claws, so improve the range characteristics of this mount's melee weapons by 1. Same reasons what I said before, it can be really good. The next one is Baneful Breath, so you can reroll wound rolls for attacks made with the model's Pestilence Breath. Okay, I don't know if this is the best one, but I absolutely love this, because I'm sure you guys know that the shooting attack for the Zombie Dragon is really good as it is. It might only be 1 attack, however, it's a free to hit. Before you even roll to hit, you can roll to try and get equal or under the number of models that are in that enemy unit. So if you're targeting an enemy unit with like 6 or more models, then you don't even need to roll to hit. So in that case, what happens a lot, unless you're targeting obviously heroes and stuff and monsters, you then go on to roll into wound, and it's a 2 you need to wound. However, the amount of times that you automatically hit, and then you roll to wound, and then you roll 1, and you're just like, oh, for fuck's sake. Like, this reminds me why Death is not destined to be the greatest shooting army there ever is. However, the fact that you can re-roll that 1, basically, the more damage you take, you need to get higher than a 2 to wound. However, a lot of the time it's a 2. And the amount of times it's like, what are the chances of me failing that? Boom, failed, damn it. And the fact that I don't think this, trait is definitely the best mount trait for the Zombie Dragon, but I love it that it's an option there just to event those really, really annoying situations. So, yeah, I respect it for that. And then number 4, Horribly Resilient. So this is the same as before as Terrorgeist. So basically, instead of healing D3 wounds in hero phase, you just heal a flat 3, which is good. And I've already talked about why those reasons are really good. The next one is a Necromantic Fang, so you can reroll failed damage characteristics rolled for this model's Snapping Maw. Okay, so again, similar to what I've been saying about the Maw attack, it's a D6 damage attack. So, let's say you get your hits, you get your wounds, -2 rends to the enemy fails their saves, and you're like, wow, I've got 3 D6 damage here, absolutely amazing. And then the amount of times you roll 1 or 2 of those dice, which is really, really disappointing again. This allows you to prevent that happening, or to roll those dice and go, I don't like that, I'm re-rolling those, and then it's not really much it could be worse by. So yes, I like it. Like I say, I don't know if that's the best one, but it's it's a lovely one because it gets you out of those horrible sort of like not nice situations. So, and then the last one is Death from the Sky. So instead of setting up this model on the battlefield, you can place it to one side and say that it's soaring in the skies in reserve. If you do so, at the end of your first movement phase, you must set up the unit on the battlefield more than 9 inches away from any enemy units. Okay, so firstly, if you're going for a big monster list, you know, your Royal Zombie Dragons, your Terrorgeist, all those sorts of things, maybe this is quite good because you're basically just going to get a hammer with, that's basically what your army is, and you're just going to smash the enemy with it. And that's all it is, and you might be going for alpha strikes and so on. However, for me, I'm not a fan of this. I think it looks a little bit like a trick, but for how I play my army, I'm not going to like this because I use every piece of my army for synergy purposes, apart from, you know, the crit flares and the crit claws. They are the damage dealers, but everything else supports them. So, if I use the Zombie Dragon, it's to allow the crit flares, the crit claws, to reroll the wound rolls with the spell. Now, if I put that model, who's going to allow them to reroll those wounds with, you know, the spell, in the sky, that's not providing synergy to my army. Yes, I can make it come down, then, you know, do a 9-inch charge and attack the enemy and, you know, like, pretend I'm, you know, a heroic knight going into battle. However, I don't feel like that model is going to be better off fighting the enemy on its own than it is with the rest of the army. So I want to keep it back and behind the flares to support them, and then when the fighting starts, it can then charge the enemy. So I do not personally like that one for my purposes, but it might be good for yours. So, going over the Zombie Dragon trait, my favourite ones are, you know, healing 3 wounds, just flat out, is fantastic. And then probably the rerolls for the snapping more, just because the amount of times you do the d6 damage and you roll really poorly, it can make a huge impact on the damage output, obviously, of the Zombie Dragon. So I feel like any chance to increase it is definitely good. And with that, that is all the allegiance abilities for the Flesh Eater Courts. Okay, so this video's been quite a long one now. It's over an hour now, so the longest video I've done for a while, I think. Certainly a lot to go through, and I think I've gone through it in a fair amount of detail. I sort of shut down the ones that I wasn't really too interested in because I didn't think there was much time in spending time talking about them. We can talk about other stuff. But yes, I very much enjoyed sort of having an in-depth read of the allegiance abilities because I haven't really done that yet, so it's been very good to do. There's some really, really good things here, guys. Yeah, like I've mentioned, there's a couple of nerfs that we've seen from last time in the, you know, the General's Handbook 2018. Yep, 2018 book in their allegiance abilities. There's been a few nerfs since then. However, overall, it's got better, I would definitely say, especially with a lot more additions like the spell laws, more command traits, more artifacts to choose from, mount traits as an example, for sure. I think there is definitely a lot better ones. I'd be really interested to hear what you guys have got to think about this, as it'd be great to hear. And so yeah, I want to thank you guys very much for watching this. If you did enjoy it, please like, subscribe and comment down below, as that has always helped me massively. It's completely free for you to do so. It's a great way for you to support the channel. However, if you do want to support the channel, I would hugely be grateful if you could check out my Patreon account I've just set up. The link for it is in the description. It'll be at the top of the description, so it'll be easy for you guys to find. If you just take a look, basically anything you guys donate, big or small, massively helps the channel. All the money gets invested in the channel. It's going towards things like getting better tomes, getting better, you know, editing software and all those sorts of things. Being able to, you know, get a better microphone for you guys, essentially. So, you know, if you listen to this while you paint, it's a little bit nicer quality. Also, getting things like a camera so I can do unboxings and all those sorts of things, and loads of things. I've actually done a video, the last video, in fact, talking about how all this helps, and I list it all on the channel. So if you guys could check it out, I'd be eternally grateful. Like I say, anything you give from just $1 is absolutely awesome. And on that note, I want to give out my first shout out to my fantastic patrons already. Really, really kind people. By them donating money, it's basically helping me be able to produce these videos for you. So, you know, you can, as long as you guys thank me, you can also, you know, basically thank them as well, as they are a great, great support. And amongst them, we have, firstly, 2 necromancers, and that's basically by donating $1 a month. And they are a Jacqueline, so thank you very much for that. Jacqueline, absolutely awesome. and we have got a Simon. So thank you guys very much for your donations. Like I say, $1 does really help me, and it really does add up, and it makes a great support. So the next two we have are the next step up, so they are vampires, and these are people who donate $5 a month to me, so absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much, guys. And we have, starting with account name MYR, I think it's Max. Max, I want to say thank you very much, because you are actually my first Patreon, and it means a lot to me. So you by surely will be my finest Patreon. Thank you very much for being the first one. And then the next one we have is a Kyle. So Kyle, thank you very much for the donation. Absolutely fantastic. You're awesome. Thank you much for your continued support as well. And I hope you are really enjoying the content. So I'll definitely want to give a shout out to you guys for your massive support you've given to me on Patreon. That's absolutely awesome. And also, what I will say is, obviously, the necromancers, they get the shout out on the first video after the donation, and then the vampires will continue to get shout outs on every video I do after. So if you're interested in any of that, please head over to Patreon, because like I say, I've said it more in the Patreon video I did last, I basically, I don't get paid to do YouTube channels and stuff. I don't get paid by YouTube or anything like that. I avoid having any adverts on my videos, so that means I just look for other avenues to try and support the channel, essentially. And I think this is the best way for it, guys. I mean, like, if you really support the channel and you really like the content I provide, it's really good for you guys to donate. If you can't, that's absolutely fine. No worries at all. But it's just a nice way to be able to fund the channel whilst avoiding all the adverts and the advertisement stuff that we can. However, if you can't afford to donate any money, like I said, that's absolutely fine. What I would love you guys to do is please subscribe and comment and like the video, as if that's absolutely free, and it's the best way you guys can support me if you can't do it on Patreon. So anyway, I've been talking for long enough now. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And remember, until next time, Nagash is all, and all is one in Nagash.